MockingOwl Studio presents The Flying Housewife audio drama. The true story of Jerrie Mock, the first woman to fly around the world. Written, directed, and engineered by Jerrie's granddaughter, Rita Mock-Pike.
The tarmac hums with excitement as the airplane is towed out to the runway a little while before the departure. Her sponsors are here. Her family crowds around the plane to say their farewells, and the crowds, including wives of some of NASA's astronauts John Glenn and Scott Carpenter, gather close, hoping to catch a glimpse of the tiny woman about to take off, on what many have called a crazy dream for this little housewife from Newark, Ohio. She is already 2 days behind in this race around the world. Her competitor took off from Oakland, California on March 17, 1964, as an homage to her hero, Amelia Earhart. The housewife and mother of three readies herself for takeoff. 2 days prior, Joan Miriam Smith, an accomplished professional pilot and flight instructor, took off for her own attempt at the title of first woman to fly around the world. With her thousands of flight hours experience, she had a strong advantage over Jerrie, who'd never even flown over open water before that day.
How am I supposed to make all of this fit? I don't really need a typewriter.
I think your sponsors would disagree.
Yes, the typewriter will help immensely with your stories.
I suppose so. I guess I'll just have to manage.
We're more than thrilled to receive them from you every day. We've made sure that there are wire and telephone services that you can use at all of your scheduled stops.
Oh, good.
Do you really need all these clothes, Mother?
I don't know. Russ, what do you think?
There aren't that many.
You've got your maps and things where you can find them, and Dave Blanton's instructions on your
Mother,
fuel tank care, and...
Where do you want your suitcase?
I think so, Art. Raji, you can put that...
Jerrie, where are you landing tonight?
Oh, well, Bermuda.
How many hours is it going to take you?
I'm not really sure.
Are you landing anywhere in between?
No, straight flight to Bermuda.
Are you going through the Bermuda Triangle?
Yes, I suppose I am.
A lot of planes have gone missing in there. How do you feel about flying into that?
Excuse us. Now, don't let them bother you.
I won't.
Mom, what about your food bars? Where do you want me to put them?
I don't care. Just put them anywhere.
Mother, that won't help you find them when you need them.
I suppose not. Fine. Put them beside my seat. When I get in, I'll move them to where I can reach.
Jerrie, one last photo.
Don't forget to write stories and send them back every day.
We're counting on those.
I know.
Mother, I've got your suitcase tucked in behind the gas tank on the right side.
Thank you, dear.
I'm going to miss you, Mother.
I'll miss you too, Raji.
Are you sure you should go?
Father, I'll be fine.
I know, but I can't help but worry.
Charlie's a good plane. He'll keep me safe.
All right, I suppose.
She'll be fine, Father.
Well, don't take any chances. I will be praying for you to hurry home.
Thank you, Father. I love you.
Be safe, but don't take your time. Joan left 2 days ago.
Yes, dear, I know. You've reminded me at least 100 times already.
Well, it's important. We want you to win.
Okay, I'll do my best.
You need to...
Let her be. She needs to think about flying now.
You're right. Sorry, dear. I love you. Take care. Call as soon as you get to Bermuda.
Here, put on your life jacket.
Smile for the cameras. One last photo.
Now don't forget, clean rags for the fuel tanks every time. Don't let them near it with dirty ones, the fire hazards.
I'll remember.
Here. In you go.
All right, thank you. Goodbye.
Quick, get that picture.
I was so glad when I closed Charlie's door, turned on his engine, and shut out the noise of all those people. Everyone telling me what to do, where to look, when to smile. This was supposed to be fun, not a press conference. But I knew I had to do those things to make Russell and my sponsors happy. They were paying my way around the world, so there was only so much I could do. But when Charlie's engine roared and we took off on that first leg, it was like my whole world became new. Just like every time I'm up there in a plane, everything else just fades into the background, and I've got nothing to worry about and just dreams to live. As I was leaving the coast and flying out over open water for the first time, though, I realized that my trailing antenna wasn't working. After I landed in Bermuda, we discovered it had been tampered with before I ever took off. We did get it reconnected, so I was okay for a time, but Bermuda. I know I shouldn't have let those reporters' comments bother me, but I guess somehow I just did. Not in a scared sort of way. As I was flying in that area, I did wonder if I would become one of those countless vessels to be lost to the Triangle's mysterious ways. Would I vanish like my hero Amelia? Would I crash because I couldn't tell which way was up anymore? Would I land in the middle of the Triangle, thinking I had found Bermuda, but it was really some uncharted island where all those planes and boats ran aground and vanished? Perhaps there would be an island community there where I could blend in. I could be independent and hold my own among them. I'd come this far. But then I saw Bermuda, landed, and found myself safe and sound in the land of tropical beauty. Of course, the wind was so strong that Charlie almost blew away and tried to crash into the terminal wall. They didn't have normal tie-downs, so we had to tie him down in a rather unique fashion. His wing ropes were tied to a hook on the wall and an oil drum, and his tail rope was buried underneath a pile of concrete blocks. I was grounded there for a week, and it was really the only place I saw along the whole route. All in all, I recommend Bermuda to pilots.
As Jerrie settled into her room at her hostess's home, she knew phone calls had to be made. Paperwork had to be dealt with. Russell had to be updated.
Yes?
Hello, I'm Jerrie Mock. I was told that I could call for weather information for my flight from Bermuda to Santa Maria.
Certainly. One moment, please. All right. There are thunderheads coming in from the east on longitude 60 degrees west by latitude of 30 degrees north, with headwinds of 50 miles per hour. At 1200 hours, the front is predicted to settle at a longitude of 20 degrees west by latitude 33 degrees north for approximately 1 hour, with gusts of 55 miles per hour. At latitude 40 degrees north by longitude 25 degrees west, there's a squall line. At 1400 hours, it's predicted to push forward at a rate of 40 knots per hour. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm too busy to talk any longer. I'll have to hang up now.
Oh, well, all right. Thank you anyway. It doesn't look good for flying today, so I'll call back tomorrow.
Oh, no, ma'am, don't do that. Tomorrow I'm really going to be busy. We have some planes coming in. I may not be able to talk at all.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Good day.
I suppose I will have to go to the airport and get Charlie ready for takeoff tomorrow then.
When most of us picture Bermuda, we think of an island paradise with lapping waves, palm trees, which don't grow there by the way, and tropical nights on a patio somewhere dining on exotic fruits and fish. Jerrie, however, remembers Bermuda mostly as the place where she was on the phone for what seemed like forever, every single day that she was there.
Jerrie, your husband is on the phone for you.
Thank you, Lillian. Hello, Russ.
Hello. When are you leaving?
Good morning to you, too.
Sorry. How are you?
Well, I'm not flying.
What's the problem? I thought you'd be at the airport already. I tried you there, but nobody had seen you yet.
I was calling about the weather before heading out. It doesn't look promising. As far as I could find out, the weather over the Atlantic is no good. It's all stormy. I also need someone to look at the high-frequency radio. Nothing was coming out of it all the way to Bermuda.
Well, Joan's left San Juan on her way to South America, so get going. But if you are there in Bermuda for a day, get some photos and write a few stories. The dispatch is expecting them. Hire a professional, though, but not one of those society types like you had before. Make sure some of the pictures look tropical and things. You're in Bermuda. Find some palm trees.
But I haven't seen any palm trees.
Well, go find one. It can't be that hard. I'll get on the phone and start calling about your radio for you. Someone's got to be able to work on it over there. You go get some stories and photos.
Yes, dear.
All right. Talk to you later. Love you.
Love you too, dear.
Jerry, it's for you. Someone from America, I think. Maybe a reporter?
Thank you. Hello, this is Jerrie Mock.
This is Tara Bell from the Havana Herald. I've heard you've been grounded in Bermuda due to the weather. Do you have a few minutes to spare for an interview about your endeavors over there?
Well, I suppose so.
How long do you expect to be in Bermuda?
Hopefully only another day or so.
And you've already been there how long?
2 days now. The storms in the Atlantic won't let up.
So when will you leave?
As soon as the weather is clear enough to safely take off and fly.
Joan Miriam Smith is grounded too, with leaky gas tanks I've seen. How do you think this will affect things with your race with her?
I really couldn't say. We've only both just begun. It could be either one of us who makes it.
What have you been doing while in Bermuda the last few days?
I've mostly been doing paperwork and getting weather reports. I've written some stories for the Columbus Dispatch as well, of course. But I've also gotten to have lunch with some of my lovely new friends here and seen quite a bit of the island. At least the parts between my hotel and the airport.
How are things at home with your family while you're so far away?
My husband says they're all doing well, though I know my daughter misses me a lot, almost as much as I miss her.
Where are you flying next, Mrs. Mock?
I'm off to Santa Maria in the Azores.
How long do you expect to be in Santa Maria?
For only the night, hopefully. I'm not planning to stay very long, as I need to move on to Casablanca as soon as possible.
How did you plan your route?
Oh, I had a lot of help from Major Art Weiner of the United States Air Force. In fact, he pretty much planned the whole thing, using his knowledge from his position as a B-47 navigator and bombardier.
How did you get the military to help with your flight?
My husband has a few connections, and those connections got us more connections, like Brigadier General Lassiter, who's now at the Pentagon, and then General Bob Strauss, who took over for Lassiter at Lockburn Air Force Base.
Did it make you nervous working with all those military types?
No, not at all. They're very nice people who were glad to help me.
Well, I need to get going now. Thank you for your time. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Jerry, the phone's for you. It's the man from the Weather Bureau.
Thank you. Finally. Hello, this is Jerrie Mock.
Hello, Mrs. Mock. I now have a moment to give you the latest weather. It still doesn't look good, though.
Is it any better than yesterday or the days before?
I'm afraid not.
Well, I guess I'm grounded another day. I won't waste your time then. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for taking the time to call me.
You're welcome, Ma'am. If I have some time tomorrow, I'll call again.
Thank you.
Jerry, it's your husband again.
Thank you. Hi, Russ.
Why haven't you left yet?
The weather's still terrible over the Atlantic.
You've been there for 5 days already. Look, weather can't be that bad for that long. Woman, you have to fly. That's why you have an instrument rating, so you can fly through fronts. Joan's leaky gas tanks are supposed to be fixed now, and the wire services say she's ready to go on. She'll get way ahead. Remember your sponsors and take a few chances.
This was supposed to be fun, not a race through some storms against the clock. Some leisurely vacation this is turning out to be. I actually get a few days in Bermuda, and I'm supposed to act like the whole world has come to an end.
Following Russell's instructions to brave the bad weather, Jerry took off to the Azores. She flew along trusting her instruments, hoping the leg would somehow run smoothly. She couldn't really enjoy the views as the weather interrupted her sightlines, and as darkness fell, she started to lose altitude.
Okay. What's wrong, Charlie? Is something wrong with your engine? Is your carburetor iced? No. Did I forget to retrim? No, autopilot's fine. Losing altitude still. What? Oh God, please not. Ice! Oh, what do I do? Okay, remember your training, Jerry. There's no de-icing on Cessna 180s, so this is on you. Okay. Okay. 2 options, right? Yes, get out of the moisture, these clouds, or go down to a warmer altitude where the moisture can't freeze. Okay, let's get out above the clouds. Santa Maria, this is November 1538 Charlie. November 1538 Charlie, over.
November 1538 Charlie. This is Santa Maria Radio. Go ahead.
Santa Maria, 38 Charlie has ice, wing ice. Request clearance to climb to flight level 110.
3 Charlie 8. This is Santa Maria. Please repeat.
Santa Maria, 38 Charlie has wing ice. Request clearance to flight level 110. Repeat, ice. Request flight level 110.
3-8 Charlie, Santa Maria. Understand you have ice. Are you requesting a flight level 110? Is this affirmative?
Affirmative, affirmative.
3-8 Charlie, Santa Maria. Stand by.
Standing by. Let me see. The ice is thicker. How much? An inch and a half? How much can Charlie take? At least a lot of the fuel has been burnt off to compensate for the weight of the airfoil. Ice changes that, I know. Charlie, don't lose control of yourself. Santa Maria, hurry up. God, if this is it, please make sure my family knows I love them and that I died living out my dreams. That's better than most people, I suppose. I could have stayed in Ohio, never doing more than a little flying around the USA, never trying anything great or amazing. Santa Maria, November 1538 Charlie requests clearance to flight level 110. I have ice.
November 1538 Charlie, Santa Maria. Stand by.
Santa Maria, please hurry. I can't hold altitude much longer. How quickly does the ice build up? There's got to be twice as much as when I last looked. If he doesn't respond soon, I'll just have to climb above the clouds. I'll just have to look out for the planes on my own.
ATC clears November 1538 Charlie to climb to and maintain flight level 110. Over.
Thank you, God. Roger. ATC clears November 1538 Charlie to climb to and maintain flight level 110. Thank you.
Roger. Clearance is correct. Santa Maria.
Okay, Charlie, you can do this. Please, Charlie, you can. I knew I loved you, Charlie.
After Santa Maria, in the Azores, Jerry headed on to Bone, Algeria. She landed without too much difficulty. Of course, leaving wasn't quite so smooth.
But I need to go to Cairo.
No, madam, you go to Tripoli, then you go to Cairo.
You don't understand. I'm supposed to just go to Cairo. I don't need to go to Tripoli. My plane holds enough fuel to get me all the way to Cairo, so I won't need to waste the time to stop in Tripoli.
You go to Tripoli, yes, madam.
But I don't need to.
Yes, madam, you go to Tripoli and then you go to Cairo. Sign this, please.
If I sign this, do I still have to go to Tripoli?
Yes, madam, you go to Tripoli.
I really don't need to.
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam. You go to Tripoli now.
She could never figure out why she was forced into going to Tripoli, except maybe there was some profit for the Algerian government somehow in routing people that way. Ah, red tape.
Oh, how I love red tape.
Now I mark down your emergency equipment for your flight. I see you have a life vest. Do you have an inflatable dinghy?
Yes.
Perfect.
But I'm flying over the Sahara.
Yes, yes, madam. Life vest and boat. Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Bad sandstorms at Cairo. Be very careful.
Thank you, I will.
Goodbye, madam. Safe journey.
Finally on her way again, flying across the desert from Algeria to Egypt, she enjoyed clear skies, though she kept an eye out for those sandstorms. And, at last, her trailing antenna was working. But, apparently, somewhere along the way, she bumped the switch and it untrailed itself.
Oh, whoops. Let me reel that in.
She set the autopilot, enjoyed some breakfast, and checked everything with Charlie's engine.
He was running as smoothly over the hot desert as he had over the cool oceans, and purred along in contentment. The craggy world of sand and camels below conjured up images of long caravans of the trade routes and tribes of nomadic Arabs. Aladdin and the 40 thieves danced before me, while the scent of rich spices and dazzling vision of precious gems sparkled as we flew along. What's that smell? Something burning. Did some sand get kicked up from below? Is something not working properly? The motor for the trailing antenna.
The motor, just inches away from the big tank, the one half full of high-octane aviation gas, half filled with even more volatile fumes. 1 second longer and Charlie would have exploded and scattered over the Libyan desert. Nothing of either of them would ever be found. No one would ever know what happened to them. But the metal cooled, and she continued on to Tripoli, and then to Cairo that same day.
Well, almost.
November 1538 Charlie. Do you have airport in sight?
Affirmative, Cairo. November 1538 Charlie has airport in sight.
Roger. 38 Charlie. Continue approach for runway 5. Contact Cairo Tower on 118.3.
Cairo Tower, 38 Charlie is downwind for runway 5.
Roger. 38 Charlie. Continue approach for runway 5.
Oh dear, that's not runway 5. Cairo Tower, 38 Charlie is now downwind for runway 5.
Roger. 38 Charlie. Continue approach.
Solid ground, and I'm in Egypt.
38 Charlie. What is your present position?
38 Charlie is on the ground.
Madam, you are not in Cairo.
If I'm not in Cairo, then where am I?
Come with me, madam.
There's excitement here in Dakar as we wait for Mrs. Joan Miriam Smith, American aviatrix, to take off on the next leg of her flight. The skies are clear and the crowds have come out to see her off at this exciting historical moment. I'm here with Miss Smith now, one of the 2 women competing to earn the title for the first woman to fly solo around the world. The world has anxiously been watching as both you and Jerry race the globe in your planes. You've got a twin-engine Piper Apache, while Mrs. Mock is flying a single-engine Cessna 180. You've got plenty of experience and credentials, but Mrs. Mock is just a housewife. What did you think when Mrs. Mock obtained the permits to make this flight before you got your own filed?
When I heard about Jerry filing for the flight permits, I was hugely disappointed. I've been dreaming of making this flight since I was a little girl. I filed as soon as I could, and then I managed to take off before her, so I still plan to beat her. We've both had some trouble along the way. I've had some issues with my gas tanks and some other things. Well, I guess Jerry's mostly been grounded because of the weather thus far. I'm going to take advantage of that, though, and keep going as soon as I can. Who wouldn't? This is a race around the world, after all, and I intend to win.
As it turns out, Jerry had landed on what we can only assume was a secret Air Force base. Obviously, however, they didn't do a very good job of keeping it secret if people see it and think it's the Cairo airport. Apparently, a few airplanes a week mistook the base for Cairo, despite them not crafting it to mimic Cairo. They used what was present on the location for their needs, including turning the palace of old King Farouk into the military housing at the base. Jerrie thought the tile work was incredible, though in desperate need of repair. Most of the military men didn't speak English, but she enjoyed cider and chats with the military men. The military kept her in Inchas for the day, refusing to let her leave before darkness fell. There were likely some secrets there that they didn't want her to see. Once darkness fell, however, they escorted her out to the runway.
When you see the lights to the left, don't land there. Go to the lights on the right. That is Cairo.
So that's what I did, though I don't seem to remember much after that. It was a big blur of photographers and reporters and people who had waited all day for me to arrive.
Welcome to Cairo, Mrs. Mock.
Oh, thank you. You have no idea how glad I am to be here.
What kept you so long today? Bad sandstorms?
Well, not really that, though I did fly through one.
Oh, that must have been terrifying. You're willing to risk your life, flying over deserts in sandstorms and over oceans in foul weather. What makes all of this worth it for you?
Have you ever flown?
Well, no, not as a pilot, ma'am.
If you've ever opened the shades on the window of an airliner, you may understand some of it. There's this great mystery out there in the sky. In a little plane like Charlie, where all you can do is rely on your sense of sight and the radio beacons blipping off some coast or mountaintop. But the sun sets and the sun rises. The blue or gray of the afternoons melt into bands of flaming swords, casting out the shadows and concerns of the world below. And then the sun sets, softening into the oranges or reds, the gold or pink of the sinking sun, until the world gains a silver rim that then slowly vanishes into darkness. And the patchwork of stars sings out to creation. Of course, it's not always clear, and you don't always want the night to come.
As Jerrie continued her flight, more obstacles arose. Some were minor, though they would have bothered any of us, like her compass being off by 10 degrees for the entire flight, and some terrifying.
What in the world? What's that smell? What is it, Charlie? What's wrong with you? Okay, let's see. I'm gonna turn on the carburetor heat. That's odd. Turning on the heat shouldn't make that stop. Loss of power! Smoke! The middle of the South China Sea isn't exactly a good place for an emergency landing. What do I do? It's too hot out there for ice. So what's fouling up? Dirt. Oh, the sandstorm. Some of that sand must have gotten into the carburetor. So if I leave the heat on until I land, we'll be okay, except for the fuel. Let me think. The winds have already cut down my fuel by at least 2 hours, and I only have a reserve of 5 hours. Oh, am I going to make it? Dear God, am I going to make it? You've brought me this far, but I've got no guarantees you'll take me any farther. Keep a level head, Jerrie. Father in heaven, please God, don't leave me here all alone.
Since we're here telling you her story, obviously she had enough fuel, though just enough. She arrived safely in Manila and pretty much kissed the ground upon arrival. Well, if it hadn't been for the hubbub at the airport when she arrived. As in most of the other landing locations, crowds had gathered to greet her and watch as history was made. Because of the sand in her engine, she had Charlie inspected there in Manila. They checked everything out, including her batteries, and was surprised to learn that she had had no issues with them.
When you replace the fuel tanks, you need to make sure you only use clean rags and put them in...
Yeah, lady, we know. Please go to your hotel. We know what to do.
Fine. I'll be back later today.
Okay, lady. Have a nice day.
Of course, when she returned to the airport later, they hadn't paid attention to what she was telling them, since she was just a woman, and couldn't possibly have known what she was talking about. So they had to take out the fuel tanks and start all over again. At least she got another day in the Philippines, but it didn't exactly go as she would have liked.
Hello?
Hello! You're still in Manila! Why didn't you leave today?
Russ, yesterday was Baton Day, a national holiday, and of course all the offices and everything was closed.
I can't hear you. Slow down, Jerry.
I said it was a holiday yesterday, and nobody would do any work on the plane.
Slow down. You can't be heard.
National holiday here yesterday, and no one would look at Charlie.
Yeah, speak slowly like the operator said. I can't hear you. Now, what time is it over there?
I couldn't get anyone to work on the plane. It's 6 p.m. here. What time is it there?
5 a.m. So, if you take off now, you can be in Guam in the morning and be ready to leave for Wake tomorrow night.
No. I can't leave now. I'm tired. The plane isn't packed, and I'm hot and sleepy. I need to get some rest first.
Speak slowly, madam.
Talk slowly. I can't understand anything. You just sound like you're singing gibberish or something.
Russ, I am talking slowly. I can't leave tonight. I'm too worn out.
Madam, you're speaking too fast. Your party can't hear you.
Jerry, you've had a nice long rest there in Manila. You're ahead so far, but Joan could still catch up to you. You might run into weather someplace or something. You should leave tonight.
I can't leave tonight. Ooh, if you could just see what I've been through.
Slow down, Jerry. I can't hear you.
I can't leave tonight, and won't even if it means Joan beats me. I'll take an also ran.
Operator, I can't hear her.
Madame, please speak slowly.
Jerry, are you there?
She is still connected.
Jerry, what did you say? Jerry?
I'm here, Russ.
Operator, are you sure she's still on the line? I can't hear anything at all.
Yes, she's still connected, sir.
Jerry? Hello? Operator, is there anything you can do to fix the connection? I need to tell her to get going tonight. I don't think she understood me.
I heard you, but I can't go, Russ. Not tonight. I'm exhausted. I wouldn't be safe if I did leave, let alone fly a plane across the ocean.
Jerry, speak slowly so I can hear you.
This is the stupidest conversation I've ever had. What a complete waste of a perfectly decent evening.
The race around the world continues as Jerrie Mock moves on from her stop in Manila, where she rested up for her next long leg, flying to Guam, 1,400 nautical miles away. We're 26 days into this race, and Jerrie Mock is ahead by several days. She's almost back to American soil. Joan Miriam Smith remains grounded in Singapore due to continued engine troubles. Foul weather, mechanical issues, and regulatory restrictions could keep either of them from picking up enough time to beat out the other, so this thing is still anybody's game.
Jerry, I understand that you were the personal guest of the governor of Guam in his mansion on your previous stop.
I was, and it was wonderful. Governor and Mrs. Guerrero were such delightfully kind hosts. We had such a lovely visit, though my fun was cut short because Russell felt he knew my needs better than I. He called almost as soon as I got there to the party everyone was throwing for me and told them to cancel it and let me go to bed. Ugh, I was so mad I could have slapped him. The governor and his wife invited me to be their guest for a few days, but Russ insisted that I leave the next morning. I didn't even get to go for a swim. I've been wanting to go swimming since Bermuda and just never could. I was on the Pacific, for goodness sake, and I never once stepped foot in it.
But you are already on American soil, and Joan is way behind you at this point. Why did he insist you press on?
Well, Russ reminded me that she only had to get to California, and I still had all the way back to Columbus before I would make the record. And Joan had a lot more experience than I. While I was out there, I used my autopilot a lot. So many of those hours I spent thinking and daydreaming. I wouldn't really call myself a daydreamer, but my husband certainly would. And I guess I probably really am. I spent much of the time out there over the oceans imagining things like what it must have been like there for Ferdinand Magellan when he was down below exploring the world. I rather felt like him, myself, as I was flying across the Pacific to places he had discovered and explored. The oceans would have been truly desolate in those days. No radio communication or beacons for guidance, sometimes not even a surety that land lay ahead, or, if it did, that it could be reached before supplies ran out. Their families and friends back home might never hear from them again. Of course, Russ panicked when he didn't hear from me for a day. One time, when I landed after he hadn't heard from me for a day or two, he actually managed to call the second I landed. They handed me the phone right there on the runway. I kind of wondered if he timed it that way so I'd be in front of all those photographers and news crews I wouldn't dare hang up on him. I think Russ holds the record for the most hang-ups from exotic places. All those hours over the ocean, even with the engine trouble and what I suspected to be sabotage, short nights and sandstorms and ice on the wings, I usually wasn't scared out there. But there were some moments, like when I was flying over Wake Island. It's this tiny little place, only 3 miles long, and it's way out in the middle of nowhere. I had radio beacons and communications going fine, but it's just hard to see such a tiny spot in the middle of the sea in the black of night. Suddenly, there were these huge flashes of light coming from below. I remembered what Art Weiner had said about some airspaces being restricted. My compass was off by about 10 degrees, so I was afraid I'd gotten into one of those restricted spaces and was being shot down. Where were these lights coming from? What was going on? I was terrified that I finally really had met my end. Turns out, though, it was the airport at Wake Island trying to show me where the tiny place was. There were some other moments, too, but while I was out there, I knew I wasn't alone. God was in there with me. I think I probably did more praying on that flight around the world than I've done at any other part of my life. I know a lot of friends and family back home were praying too, as well as people I met along the way. I'm certain I'm here today because God kept me safe.
After Wake Island, Jerrie headed on to Hawaii and then finally mainland USA, Oakland, California. She was almost home.
Jerrie!
Russ!
Hold it right there. Can you kiss her again? Just a little longer this time.
Russ, hold on. Let me comb my hair. Can you find my purse and heels? And get this awful life vest off me.
Congratulations, Mrs. Mock. You've made it.
She's still got the rest of the way to Columbus to go.
I heard you had some help from the military with your planning. What was it like working with those generals?
Well, it was very nice, really. They were very helpful. Brigadier General Richard Lassiter started things going until he was moved to the Pentagon. General Bob Strauss replaced him at Lockburn Air Force Base. Apparently, when he came on there, he came home and told his wife that General Lassiter decided the Air Force should help some crazy, inexperienced woman who thinks she can fly around the world in a legal single-engine airplane. And now I've inherited her.
That must have been pretty exciting for your family, having generals and things all over the place.
My mother did have a bit of fun, I'll admit. Of course, she called everyone general, including the major.
I'm sure the promotion gave him quite the kick.
I imagine it did. And Mother certainly had quite the thrill answering the phone at all hours of the night. Someone would usually call from the Pentagon telling us where Jerrie was. Whoever it was would say, "Don't tell General Strauss that I called, but Jerrie's over such and such a place and doing fine." Then, 10 minutes after they hung up, General Strauss would call and tell us the same thing. Sometimes we'd even get a third phone call.
Mrs. Mock, now that you're sure to be the first woman to fly solo around the world, what's it like? How do you feel?
I'm not really sure yet. I was just making this flight for fun, and now...
She's very excited. We all are. And we're so proud of her for all she's faced and made it through.
So, how long will you be in Oakland? Are you leaving as soon as you're fueled up again?
No, I'll stay the night. It was too long a flight from Honolulu to continue on just now.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we really need to get going.
Oh, right. Thanks.
You have no idea how worried I've been about you. I worried so much, I lost 18 pounds.
You needed to lose 18 pounds.
Yeah, so I did.
Just another day, I think, and then I'll finally be home.
The kids will be so glad to see you.
I've missed them so much. I'm so thankful your mother's been with Valerie all this time.
She's been loving it, though Valerie does miss you.
I'll finally see them tomorrow.
Dear, you're almost done. You've become the first woman to fly solo around the world.
I did it. I finally fulfilled my dreams. All the way around the world, just me and Charlie. That roar of his engine. Part of why we got him was because of his big, beautiful roar whenever he took off. Every time I heard him, I just went to another world. I could see all those sights and live out all those dreams I've had since I was a little girl.
Welcome home, Jerry!
I'm really home, Russ. I made it. I missed you.
Welcome home, Mom.
I missed you, Raji.
Jerry, how does it feel? What was the biggest challenge for you? Were you ever scared out there all alone?
Hold it right there, Jerry. No, like this. There you go. Smile.
Jerrie Mock, a 38-year-old housewife from Ohio, became the first woman to fly around the world. She made this flight in 29.5 days, making 21 stops. Bermuda, the Azores, Morocco, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, India, Thailand, Philippines, Guam, Wake Island, and then finally several places in America before she landed in Columbus, Ohio, on April 17, 1964. Joan Miriam Smith finished nearly a month after Jerry arrived back home. Jerry took 8 world records at the time, 7 of which remain hers. On May the 4th, 1964, she received a medal from the President of the United States. She has received many other medals, keys to cities, induction into the Ohio Civil Rights Hall of Fame, and dozens of other honors. She took several other world records in aviation, hosted a television show for youth, filmed Ohio football games for Ohio State University, worked in film, wrote books. But if you asked her what her greatest accomplishment was, she'd tell you.
Having 2 of my 3 childhood dreams come true. I wanted to fly around the world. I did that. I wanted to ride a camel in the desert. I did that, even if the government confiscated my photos. And I wanted to ride an elephant. 2 out of 3 isn't bad, especially for just a woman like I was always told I was. Just a woman. Just a housewife, they told me. But I made my dreams come true. So can you.
The Flying Housewife audio drama, presented by MockingOwl Studios on the 60th anniversary of Jerrie Mock's flight. Written, directed, produced, and engineered for audio presentation by Rita Mock-Pike. Starring Rita Mock-Pike as Jerrie Mock, Annali Carmel as the narrator, Phillip Malinak as Russell Mock, Cathy Cole as Joan Miriam Smith and Reporter 6, and featuring Soren Porter as Roger Mock and Reporters 4, 5, and 7. Larry VanMersbergen as Tim Fredritz, the Egyptian officer and the mechanic, Cynthia and Lublink as Mel Tharp, Reporter 2 and Photographer 1, Randy Cook as Art Weiner, the Met officer and Algerian ATC, Jesse Davis as Reporters 1 and 8 and the telephone operator, Edmund Garcia as radio operator, Egyptian ATC and Photographer 2, and Sue Cook as Lillian and Reporter 3. Opening theme by Annali Carmel, with sound effects from freesound.org. Quotes and some dialogue taken from the memoir 38 Charlie by Jerrie Mock.